One of the bad habits I had back in the day was spending hours on Facebook. For the whole period of my teenage life, whenever it started, it was the ultimate best tool there was for socializing with friends and organizing parties. However, the most compelling reason for me to spend so much time there was not because I was chatting to friends or organizing parties, it was because I wanted to see the newsfeed. It had been designed to create that trance-like effect, considering the fact that Facebook wanted more engagement on its site. And so, it worked like magic. 1 hour browsing just content after content, watching useless videos, tolerating loads of ads, and the most devastating part, comparing one's life with those of others, which seemed to be better. With my eventual discovery of the realm of self-development, I found it high time to get rid of the bad habit. I didn't want to delete Facebook altogether after all. It was one of the primary tools to keep in touch. Then I came to the conclusion that I had to alter the environment from within Facebook itself. I found a plugin called Newsfeed Eradicator, which, as its name suggests, completely eliminates your newsfeed. The change was prompt. I changed from wasting 2 to 3 hours a day on Facebook to less than 10 minutes, which was possible due to the virtual few minutes I used installing the plugin. It felt that I had totally missed the existence of the newsfeed. From this experience, I learned the crucial impact that changing one's surroundings can have. In fact, it is undoubtedly the easiest way to alter behavior. In the course of changing the habits, it is quite clear that one's surroundings need to be observed well. Therefore, there are 2 principles. Number 1. Increase or decrease specific cues. All habits begin with a cue that triggers the habit formation process. In my case, the cue I could not resist pouncing on and scrolling through endlessly was the newsfeed on Facebook. Removing that cue made it nearly impossible for my bad habit to start getting going. There is an opposite effect in strengthening cues for good habits. For instance, when I moved offices, I installed a pull-up bar right under one of the main doors. In order to have it there, I started doing an additional 10 to 20 pull-ups per day without even realizing it. Having something to look at as stimulus, the pull-up bar prompted me to get into the habit. Reflect on the cues that are part of your daily life. If you want to read more books, then position a book on your bedside table or beside your coffee mug. The point of amplifying the visibility is to create a cue for you to read more. Similarly, if you want to play guitar, it would make sense to place the instrument in a spot where it is accessible and not, say, tucked away in a closet. The stronger the cues toward good habits, the more likely those cues are to act on them. Conversely, to stop a harmful behavior, it would be best to minimize or even get rid of the cues that trigger it. For example, if one has an habitual behavior of munching on junk food when viewing the TV, one can minimize the cue by not making it visible or simply not buying them at all. Instead, more healthy choices should be kept visible. The key strategy here is to make the signals of good habits more visible and thereby render the signals of bad habits less detectable. Number 2, make bad habits harder and good habits easier. Not all cues are avoidable. For example, if one craves junk foods each and every time one feels hunger, then one cannot avoid the cue of hunger. However, one can redesign one's environment to make the bad habit harder and the good habit easier. Remove all junk food inside your home and replace them with healthy ones. When hunger strikes, healthy snacks are just seconds away, while indulging into junk food would require getting dressed, going out to the store, and purchasing it. Probably the most simple yet powerfully effective way to alter habits is by changing the environment to make dangerous habits inconvenient and beneficial habits easy. For example, if exercise is the goal, one needs to make it as easy to do as possible for them to follow. This may be done, for example, when a gym has been chosen to be near home or work, which may wipe out the ease of traveling barriers. To prepare clothes and equipment the night before. The pre-staging enables one to get to location on time, and it is part of making one aware of the process of commitment itself. Another example is where one would like to consume more water during the day. In this case, rather than keeping water away, one should ensure there is always a water bottle placed alongside himself or herself. Doing this will certainly reduce the friction that is entailed in the act of standing up for a drink, thus making it easy to adopt the habit. It is better to make your bad habits as inconvenient as possible to perform. For instance, in the event that you have the tendency to watch television marathons at late hours, you might think of putting the remote control in a different room, or even unplugging the television after a certain hour. These extra layers of inconvenience make it harder for you to give into the habit. From my experience with Facebook, I have realized that the environment greatly affects us. It's not really a matter of whether we wish for something or not. Very often, what we do depends on the design of our environment. Willpower is limited, and relying solely on willpower usually results in burnout. Changing the environment to nudge oneself toward proper behaviors is oftentimes much more effective and sustainable instead. Consider your environment as an invisible force pushing you down a certain trajectory. The more temptations and distractions that fill your environment, the more vulnerable you will be to succumbing to those temptations. Conversely, the easier it is to act in accordance with your goals if your environment facilitates acting in ways consistent with your goals. What if you wanted to have the habit of meditation every day? A person would imagine a welcoming space right at home for meditation, perhaps a soft cushion, serene lighting, and soothing melodies. The designating of an area for meditation creates an atmosphere that draws you into the practice. The same applies to work productivity. If there is a clutter of stuff at one's workplace, then it becomes much harder to focus on the task at hand. However, when junk is removed from what is needed, the environment, in effect, promotes productivity. The design of the environment fundamentally revolves around reducing friction for the habits that one wishes to build, while introducing friction for the habits that one wishes to break. Here are some working steps that one can implement to change the environment and make it easier to build good habits. Step number 1, declutter your space. Clutter isn't just visual chaos in a messy room, but also defines how nobody can concentrate. It can be your home, your office, or even your car. Whatever your case, clear the area where you spend most of your time. Decluttering will clear a space that would help you focus better. Step number 2, add visual cues for good habits. Place reminders of your goals in visible places. If you want to exercise more, keep your workout clothes where you can see them. If you want to read more, leave books in places where you typically sit or relax. These visual cues can prompt you to take action without much thought. Step number 3, remove temptations. For healthier eating habits, it is best not to buy rubbish in the supermarket. To attain less time using a screen, place the phone in a different room while working. The fewer temptations there are in one's environment, the more improbable it will be for one to act on the bad habits and afford them opportunities. Step number 4, use technology to your advantage. Now, there are many apps and tools which support you in changing your environment. For example, you could use a website blocker to limit the time you spend on distracting websites, reminders to establish healthy habits, or apps that facilitate the tracking of progress. Such tools may make an environment aligning with your objectives. Step number 5, change your social surroundings. The individuals that you interact with often impacts what you do. If you are trying to quit smoking, interacting with non-smokers can really help count. And if you hang with people who smoke or have the same undesirable habit you're trying to break free from, it's going to make it quite a bit harder to build change in those areas. Seek out friends or communities that share your objectives and will contribute to your development. Another important part of developing good habits is to make the first step as easy as possible. Often the hardest part is getting started. For instance, if one wants to develop a habit of running in the mornings, then he should commit himself to putting on running shoes and stepping out. It is not necessary at all to think of running miles instead. He must focus only on that very step. Once a person has gone outside, there is a good chance that he may continue the process. Similarly, if you want to start journaling, then leave your journal open on your desk with a pen ready for your work. Just write one sentence. Lowering the friction involved in getting started makes it easier to build that habit. The idea is to lower the barrier to entry so that starting feels effortless. Change doesn't have to be difficult. By tweaking your environment, you'll have a tendency to render self-helping habits very nearly automatic, while making unhelpful habits almost unbearably difficult to maintain. The key is to create an environment that nudges you, gently, toward the individual you want to be. Start small, be consistent, and then sit back and watch as your habits and your life improve. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click that little like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. Thanks for watching.